Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce saying, Joyce, what a thrill to be back doing Oscars playback for the 2001 Academy Awards. Do you see what I did there?
It's always a thrill because are we not entertained? Or are you terribly vexed?
Terribly vexed.
I'm
What a
always
year. 2000 in film, Joyce. So we're doing some bonus episodes of these. So we did the 90s, including the 90 ceremony, which was for the 89 year. Now we're doing the 2001 ceremony for the 2000 year, because this was right after 99 in film, which we've talked about. Greatest year ever, right? Best year ever. They've written books about it. 2000, I would say.
And an EW cover that you can't find anymore. So
no, right. We talked about that. It does not exist. 2000, I would say. I saw a lot of these movies in the theater. I graduated college in 2000, Joyce. So May of 2000, I was a college graduate.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was really great.
You're the first graduating class of the new millennium.
Yes. And I was the first person to graduate college who could not read, as we talked about. I don't know how to read.
Yeah. Were you able to read Inside Oscar 2? Because this year's the final year of that book. There's no more. We're done after this.
And I didn't even look at it. I'm going blind on this one. I was looking at articles because I found articles. But no, 2000 in film, I saw a lot of these movies. And it was a fine year. Looking at it now, I was like, it's hard to figure out. It feels like a little bit of like, not a death rattle from 99, but definitely like some leftover stuff that would have been appropriate in 99. Some bigger like franchisey things coming down the pike. It feels like a transitional year to me for movies. And obviously after this, the Academy Awards happened in March of 2001, and months later we'll have 9/11, and the industry seemingly changes. And that following year's Oscars is, a big lavish.
The longest Oscars ever.
Yes. So yeah, what were you up to in 2000, Joyce?
What was I up to in 2000? I turned 15, so I finished my freshman year in high school, and then I was going into my sophomore year. Good times. And yeah, I saw a lot of these movies too. When I was going through the list of like 2000 in film on Wikipedia, of course, I was like, I saw like half of these in the theater, and most of them I just saw on pay-per-view.
Interesting.
Like frequently, like over and over again.
It's
like
funny.
U571.
Right.
I didn't see that in the theater, but I just kept watching it on pay-per-view. Loved that.
I've never actually even seen U571.
Wow. Good film.
Okay. Some of these, yeah, like I said, we were in the midst of college graduation, so 99. So like some of them I feel like I always equate with the year 99, like a movie like Boiler Room, Joyce. Love Boiler Room.
Love Boiler Room. That came out, I remember that came out in February 2000, which was right before in New York, we have the winter break in February.
Yes.
I love that break because I until college, I did not realize this was not a national thing.
Right. So, and a lot of these, I'm like, that's the reason why I kind of like blend a lot of these together with 99, because a lot of these, the winter ones at least, all came out while we were still talking about the 99 movies because the Oscars hadn't happened yet, right? So like the Boiler Room was out, we're still talking about like Magnolia. It was wide released a few weeks before, and like it's like still a thing that people are discussing.
Yeah, and then the week after Boiler Room, Wonder Boys came out, which was kind of a leftover thing from the year before, and then that was kind of like an also ran for this cycle. Yes. Because he didn't make it in, and Michael Douglas didn't make it into Best Actor, and it kind of felt like, so like years later, Shutter Island reminded me of Wonder Boys because that was delayed until February, and then but before it was delayed, it felt like that could have been an Oscar vehicle, right? And then it just didn't happen for the following cycle. Right. Yeah.
And I don't think Michael Douglas would have beat Kevin Spacey or Russell Crowe for Best Actor in 99, but I think it could have gotten a little more shine. And it's on my list for a few alternate picks here because I think it maybe would have done well. Otherwise, I'll give you another one. I saw that one in the theater and also this one, Joyce. And I rewatched this last year because I was like, I just love it. Reindeer Games.
I have not seen that since I watched it on pay-per-view.
Fantastic John Frankenheimer movie. I think it's his last movie, right? John Frankenheimer, I believe. I'm going to click here first. It might be his last film before he died. He was scheduled to direct Exorcist. He did a short film for BMW. His last theatrical film was 2000's Reindeer Games. Ben Affleck never put a car thief behind a wheel. It's like a leftover vestige of like post-Pulp Fiction Tarantino ripoffs combined with like Frankenheimer doing Ronin, but a goof, Aaron Kruger wrote the script, who had written Arlington Road, which was a twisty one. So it's like a lot of twists baked into this. Charlize Theron doing like two completely different performances for the same character. Gary Sinise is in it as like a really villainous guy who ends up being like kind of a patsy. Affleck is awesome. The movie people hate. I just love it. I rewatched it last year because it was the anniversary.
It was February for Ben because it was
Yes.
back-to-back weeks with Boiler Room and Reindeer Games.
Right.
Yeah.
And Ben and Boiler Room, just iconic stuff. Like doing the Alec Baldwin in Glenn Ross part. Boiler Room, I recently rewatched, Joyce, on Pluto TV, which I just love. Pluto TV is made for 40 to 45-year-old people who watched movies in the 90s. That's all they show. Desperado, you want to watch Desperado?
I've watched anything on Pluto before.
I gotta say, Joyce, I think you'd get a kick out of it based on.
I'm sure I would.
You're younger than me, obviously, but I think you would still like it. No, Reindeer Games is a great one. So a lot of these movies I like look at as like 99 movies is like what I was saying. But then you get like Aaron Brockovich, which I just rewatched last night.
Love Aaron Brockovich. That's still on TV frequently, so I watch it whenever it's on TV. It doesn't matter like what part of it, the movie it's in. If I turn it on, I see it, I'll watch it.
Fantastic movie. Just the best. And we'll talk about that a lot. We could go through. So the top grossing movies of the year, Joyce. We'll start there and then we'll go through some stuff. It was Mission Impossible 2 was the top grossing movie. Got John Woo coming into the Mission Impossible franchise was a big deal. Not a great movie. It's actually my least favorite Mission Impossible movie, a franchise I truly love.
Totally fine. I remember I saw this with my family on opening night because my mom is a huge MI fan, the series.
Right.
So she grew up watching that. So we watched a lot of the Mission Impossibles in the theater. So I just remember seeing this. And then we're just like, that was okay.
I didn't love it. I love, so like I said, I love the first Mission Impossible. That was a movie I saw on VHS, and I remember it was one of those ones I rented for Blockbuster and then immediately rewatched. There were a few movies I was like, oh, it's a 2-day rental. I'm actually going to rewind the tape and rewatch it again. That was one of them. I just loved it so much, and I've seen it a million times. So I was really hyped for Mission Impossible 2. John Woo was like kind of in the midst of an American renaissance / breakout, right? Like he had like Broken Arrow and all these different movies that people were like super excited about and rediscovering or discovering for the first time. And it had a great Limp Bizkit's theme song, Joyce. If you remember, this was
Limp Bizkit was huge this time. Obviously, I also was very into MTV and TRL.
Same. So I was like, this movie is gonna rule, and it sucked. I did not like it, and it's actually one of the ones I have not revisited at all. And I've rewatched almost all the Mission Impossible movies multiple times, including Mission Impossible 3, which is amazing. And Philip Seymour Hoffman should have got an Oscar nomination for it. But maybe we'll talk about that someday down the road.
So, like the thing I associate Mission Impossible 2 with the most now is how it stopped Dougray Scott from becoming Wolverine, because he was originally cast in X-Men, which came out July 14th, 2000. Love that movie. I mentioned last week, was it, that I still have the ticket stub for that. Great movie. Film. But yeah, he had a scheduling conflict with MI2, so he had to drop out, and then they cast Hugh Jackman and a star was born, and he only had like 3 weeks.
And he's amazing. And Dougray Scott.
He made what, like 9 movies? Yeah.
So Mission Impossible 2, not great. Number 2 movie is Gladiator, Joyce. Absolutely loved Gladiator. It was easily one of my favorite movies of this year. I just was so into it. We saw it opening weekend. So I went to Fordham University, Joyce, which is in the Bronx. They had a Ram van to get us from our campus to the Lincoln Center campus. And then we went and saw it at Lincoln Square, the theater of choice for my 20s, and even now still, Joyce, I still go to see movies there because
a lot of screenings at Lincoln Square.
A lot of screenings, and also just generally great theater to see movies at. And just love Gladiator. Was like, this is a real movie. This is a kick-ass movie.
A real movie.
It's a real one. It's so good. Russell Crowe, Are You Not Entertained? Terribly Vexed Joaquin. Just incredible action. It was so cool. I just remember thinking it was so cool.
I have not seen Gladiator in a very long time. I can't remember the last time I have seen it. Like, I don't even know if it was in the last decade, but love the score. The soundtrack is great. My friend is obsessed with it. We tell each other what we want for Christmas. So that year he was just like, just get me the Gladiator soundtrack. So
Amazing.
I got it for him. He still has its CD, obviously. I saw this. So this came out May 5th, 2000. I did not see it opening night because that night was the series finale of Boy Meets World, mentioning Boy Meets World for the second week in a row.
Obviously have to.
Yeah, also Danielle Fisher's birthday that day too. So I recorded the series finale of Boy Meets World on VHS, which I still have, commercials and all, like Neutrogena, Jennifer Love Hewitt, 2000 commercials, you know. So then I saw Gladiator the next day on Saturday. Yeah.
Great movie.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite. It's not my favorite of this year either, but highly entertaining.
I mean, it says it right on the box. Are you not entertained? I don't know if it's my favorite of this year. I think Almost Famous probably still is, and I love Almost Famous to death. But Gladiator is still up there. Have not seen it in a very, very long time, but I did go through a phase where we watched it a lot. It was definitely a classic rewatchable, as they say. Castaway #3, love Castaway, and then rewatched that recently, and it's just an incredible movie. It is actually so good. I think it's a great movie. Saw that in the theater. It came out, I think, in December of this year, so it's definitely a 2000 movie.
22nd,
right?
Big day. Yeah, I saw it in a theater, and I also can't remember the last time I've seen it.
Right. You should rewatch it. It's good. It holds up.
I would just say that, you know, I think everyone agrees that the Castaway parts of just the Tom and Wilson parts are the best.
I think they are, but I don't think it's like, I think that's been the critique of it later. But if you watch when you rewatch the movie, the bracketing parts are not that long, and they're not in it that much. You know what I mean? Like the beginning.
No, but I think it's just kind of like once you like get out of it, I think it's like you kind of expect the momentum to change when he leaves, obviously, right. But it's still, I don't know. I feel like there's still like a level you can still sustain to like carry through to the end. Because it's like, obviously he's not going to remain there forever, you know?
Right. I don't know. I think it's sustained. I gotta say, if you rewatch it, I think it actually really holds up. It's definitely like, this is I think this is actually now an underrated, it made $400 million. So it's impossible to say this. And it was an Oscar nominee and obviously all these things, but I actually think it's like underrated in the Tom Hanks filmography, because I think people do maybe discount it as a gimmick or kind of just, you know, boil it down to Wilson, but it's great. I think it's just so good. I think he's amazing in it, though. As we'll talk about, I don't know if he should have won. We'll get this with Best Actor, but I mean, it is a great performance from Hanks.
He had to. They filmed that because they had to take a break.
Yeah.
For him to gain the weight.
Right. Well, he had the Oscars, I think, in the year before. He had the beard, right?
Yeah. Like he was like mid, but they had to take a very long break to give him time to gain the weight.
Yes. #4 at the box office, Joyce. Nancy Meyers' classic, What Women Want. Mel Gibson. Whatever happened to that guy?
Not Singing Bitch, I don't think.
This is a great year for Helen Hunt. She's the 3rd and 4th highest grossing movies of the year.
Yeah.
I love Nancy Meyers movies. I think she's great. What Women Want, I was never that into. It was like, just always felt like a little hoary. You know what I mean? Like just kind of hack.
It's one of those movies where it's entertaining when you watch it, even though you know it's problematic.
Right. Next up on the list was one I actually never even saw / even heard of. Hang on, let me find it. It is Dinosaur.
You've never heard of Dinosaur?
No, I was like, what is this movie? It made $350 million. It's an animated movie. I
didn't see it either. It came out in May. It was like their Disney summer thing.
But I was like, The Good Dinosaur?
Discussed multiple times already. They were transitioning out of the Disney Renaissance era.
Right. It certainly was, but it still made a ton of money, because you know what people like to see when they have kids? Movies. You know what they're going to go to?
It made more money than Lightyear did this year.
Yeah.
So
well, Lightyear is not great. As someone
I did not see Lightyear, so
you can watch on HBO Max now, probably, as this is airing. I think it comes out on August 3rd on HBO Max. But yes, not my favorite.
Don't have any real plans to watch it, really. So
next up was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Ron Howard movie with Jim Carrey as the Grinch. Didn't see it.
I saw it in a theater.
What'd you think?
Not great. It's just, there's too much going on, and it's like very schlocky. But I think like it felt like they were just trying to obviously like cash in. It felt like this was like when people were starting to tire of Jim Carrey, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And he had
Yeah.
come off of, I mean, let me see if I can.
Well, he had come off of the Truman Show, Man on the Moon, right?
So
And
he
this
needed like, it felt like it was like, I got to do something here that's like,
right, exactly.
gonna get the money.
Yeah, so they were trying to like get back to like the early 90s or
Yes.
mid 90s era Jim Carrey,
Yes.
and this was just not it.
So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this movie, but it won an Oscar, Joyce, for best makeup.
Yes.
I sent you the quote last night in a backstage article from EW. Rick Baker, who won best makeup. I'm sure that they would love for this quote to remain buried, but I'm going to read it anyway. It says he had a backhanded compliment for star Christine Baranski, who we love, who played Martha May.
Diane Lockhart all the way.
And you know, we've been watching a lot of Mamma Mia. You know what rules? Mamma Mia. And if we ever do the 2008 movies, I will say that should have been a Best Picture nominee, and Meryl should have could have won Best Actress, especially against Kate for the Reader, because the Reader's not that good. Anyway, Christine Baranski, he says,
I have such doubts about that, but sure.
I mean, she's good in doubt, but Mamma Mia, she's unbelievable. And he says she had subtle makeup because she looked like a who to begin with. And then the EW editorializing, ouch. And then another quote. I said to Ron Howard, I don't think she needs an appliance put on her, but he said, I think we should use one because she might feel bad if everybody has a plastic face and she doesn't. But we just kind of changed her lip, not her nose. And then the EW again. Gee, whoever said makeup improved self-esteem. Not what you want, probably. Especially for a legend like Christine Baranski.
No, we could like aggregate that now and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm sure it would go over great. People would be thrilled. So anyway, next up was Meet the Parents, Joyce. I love this movie. Saw it at the Soundview movie theater, which was, I think, the Cineplex Odeon. I don't believe it's still there in Port Washington.
It's a great movie, and I loved it because it takes place on Long Island, and there's a scene of them driving on the LIE, and I was like,
Joyce, it's shot in Port Washington.
I know.
In Port Washington, literally, Louis, the restaurant, which is, I'm not sure if it's still called Louis, but I know they changed owners, is in a shot with an old sign that they had that was neon. And then they're driving down Main Street in Port Washington, right past the train
station.
You
know what didn't shoot on Long Island? The Tender Bar.
No kidding. And that's what we want the verisimilitude of this.
The Tender Bar needed to be Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents is absolutely hilarious. It's a great moment for Ben Stiller. De Niro is so funny. I just love it so much. An incredible Owen Wilson quasi cameo. It's just amazing. This movie will come up again, Joyce, because guess who's got it in his hopeful Best Picture?
I just remember, I saw it with my parents, and then my dad just absolutely died at the last line when Blythe Danner was like, oh no. And Robert De Niro was like, what? And she was like, Pam's middle name. And then they go like, Pamela Martha Fokker. And my dad, I can still like hear him guffawing in my head because he just completely lost it.
It's so good. And it was a great time because this was still, even though he did analyze this and stuff, this was still a time where it was like a mostly novelty for De Niro to like spoof De Niro. Mm-hmm. Now I think it's like really tired. And this was a great Ben Stiller moment where he was just this perfect clown everyman. Yeah, I think Ben Stiller in these movies is great.
I feel like I understand why they did the sequels, but they should just kept it as this. Yeah. I saw Meet the Fockers, which was fine. I did not see Little Fockers.
I've never seen Little Fockers either. Meet the Fockers is Dustin Hoffman and Barbara, so it's actually not the worst, but it's definitely
fine. But it's not as good as Meet the Parents.
No. Incredible movie. Next up was The Perfect Storm, Wolfgang Peterson epic with Mark Wahlberg.
Totally into The Perfect Storm
and George Clooney. What you think? You liked it?
I loved it, and this was like, it came out at the end of June. It was the same day as The Patriot, I think, or was Patriot the week
saw before? Both of these in theaters.
I was not into The Patriot.
I thought it was okay. You know what I really loved in The Patriot? Heath Ledger, R.I.P.
Well, Heath was great, as always. But yeah, I love The Perfect Storm, and this was also because like George had already left ER at this point. He left in February '99. So, and this was him like fully transitioning into movie star, because he also has Oh Brother, Where Art Thou later this year.
Yes. And
it was actually working, right? I don't think the movie got great reviews, but it was still like a huge hit.
It was a huge hit, and it a weird. I mean, it's weird now to think of it as a summer blockbuster because it's incredibly sad because everybody dies at the end, including George. And it also is like a reunion with George and Mark, where you're like Mark Wahlberg, where you're like, oh, Clooney and Wahlberg are going to be like a thing, and then Wahlberg's not in Ocean's 11, and he kind of gets booted out of that group.
Yeah, he couldn't do Ocean's 11.
And Damon did it, I believe,
yes.
and then the rest is history because I don't think George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg have done a lot together since.
No, and honestly, they don't. I'm sure they're like friendly and cordial, but I'm just projecting here, but like George and Matt seem like they get along more than George and
She
Mark.
seems a little more simpatico.
Yes.
Next up was X-Men, which, like you mentioned, was a big deal. A superhero movie. This was Bryan Singer, now canceled, but at the time it was like, wow, Bryan Singer leveling up from an indie filmmaker to becoming a superhero filmmaker.
Yeah, and it was kind of, after Batman and Robin, starring George Clooney, was a complete disaster.
Yes.
This kind of repaired this summer superhero blockbuster, and then we had Spider-Man 2 years later, and obviously now we have one every year. So,
very big.
Yeah, this is a great movie. Love it so much. Obviously, yeah, Hugh Jackman star-making turn. I like perfectly cast, like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. I did not watch X-Men First Class for the longest time because I love the OG X-Men film cast so much.
I'll tell you what, X-Men First Class was still good.
It's better than the other. I haven't seen Apocalypse. Days of Future Past, fine. And like they knew they had to like bring back some of the OG people too.
Right.
But obviously I haven't seen Dark Phoenix.
No, go ahead.
Well, X2 is the best of the original 3 trilogy. Love X2.
That's what everybody says. I have not seen either. Honestly, I've not watched a lot of these movies in a long time, so I can't even speak to it.
I watch X-Men and X2 a lot. Do not watch The Last Stand because that had other behind the scenes issues because Bryan Singer wanted to do Superman.
Yes.
Returns, and he took James Marsden with him, so that's why they killed off Cyclops, and they just completely fucked up the Phoenix storyline.
Rough, tough beat.
Yeah. So.
And who directed that movie?
Who was that?
Brett Ratner, right? So this is a great legacy of directors here. Wow. We're just living it up.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So we don't mention X-Men: The Last Stand in my house.
No.
I don't think I've seen it since it came out in 2006.
I saw it in the theater and did not like it.
I saw it in the theater too, just because I felt I owed it to myself to see it. And yeah, not the best, but this first film, great stuff.
Here's what I was thinking of with X-Men. You mentioned like Hugh Jackman, obviously, like immediate star-making performance. Do we still have that now? I was thinking too of like X-Men felt like also like another one was like Matthew McConaughey in A Time to Kill, right? This is a few years earlier, where you're just like, he's on the cover of EW. Nobody even knows who he is. And it's like, this guy is going to be a movie star. And then the movie comes out and people see it and they're like, that guy's a movie star. Same thing with Hugh Jackman. It was the exact same thing where it's like, hey, guess what? Guess who's a new A-list movie star? This guy. You never seen him before. Now he's Wolverine and now he's majorly famous. And I'm like, you don't really have that now, I don't think.
No, it's just like, it's a completely different system. This was, again, we're coming out of the 90s. So like it's, and now with like the internet and everything is so online, but I think that just puts people even more isolated in their own bubbles. Like, I think the thing is that a lot of people conflate like their own bubble with reality. Like they think like what they care about, what they follow in their bubble applies to real life. And that's not true.
No.
And so I think a lot of people think like people who are famous to them personally, like their faves, whoever they stand, are like super famous in real life. And that's not true at all. Like you don't really have people, like I wouldn't put Hugh Jackman on the same level as like Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise or anyone, but my parents know who the Toms are. They know who Julia Roberts is.
Right.
They know who Matthew McConaughey is.
Right.
But a lot of these like contemporary younger stars who are famous to like Gen Z and like the internet, they don't know who they are.
Right. To your point at the Oscars, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Steve Martin has a lengthy bit in his monologue where he's referring to Tom, Julia, Mel.
Yeah, and like one name.
And you get the joke because you know who he's talking about.
Yeah, and like a lot of like, you know, I think there was a lot of discourse around this in the late aughts when, the industry was really trying to make like Ryan Reynolds happen, right? He was just in a lot of movies towards the end of this decade, the 2000s. And like, no shade to him, but my parents don't know who Ryan Reynolds is.
I wonder if they would know now. You think they would not know now?
I think they would like know him as the guy in The Proposal opposite Sandra Bullock. Like they know who Sandra Bullock is.
You know what? If if Ryan Reynolds had a TV show on Disney Plus, they would know who he is probably, or a show. Like a lot of my parents will watch shows now. They don't really watch a lot of movies. My parents
don't watch shows, so like they watch more movies. But I think like a lot of these contemporary stars just don't register in the same way with them. Right. Because like the media is different too, because a lot of things are obviously online, so it's not the same as like stuff like newscasts like on TV or like magazine covers.
Right.
Print is dying. I don't know.
It's true. I don't know. I've heard that print isn't good. And the number 10 movie of the box office is What Lies Beneath, a thriller that Robert Zemeckis directed. 2 movies in the top 10 for him, Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. It's a Hitchcockian, like just a really like quick, good thriller that came out in the summer. I enjoyed this movie, but I have not watched it a lot
I have not seen it since it came out, probably.
I feel like it has a pretty solid film Twitter fan base. I think people do like this movie.
Yeah, I think so, but it's kind of just forgotten about, I think, until someone mentions it, and then you're like, oh yeah, I like that.
I think the twist was Harrison Ford's the bad guy, right? So it was like a little bit of that was unexpected because it's Harrison Ford, right? And he ends up being like not a good guy.
So
spoiler alert, I'm sorry to everybody.
He attacks Michelle.
Yes. Other movies, Joyce. So I mentioned a few I wrote down. I'll just read them off. I like I said, it's a strange year. So Boiler Room, The Beach, Danny Boyle and Leo. You like that one?
For a while, not into it, but that was, remember the discourse, because that was like his first real post Titanic movie. That was so. But it was, I recall it being totally serviceable. So
seemingly
I have not rewatched it, clearly.
No. Other ones I wrote down that I think people enjoy, that I have like varying opinions on, and the one that I think doesn't exist but it really should. I wrote down these. So we mentioned Aaron Brock, which we'll talk about later, but High Fidelity. I was never that big of a fan.
I like High Fidelity,
but it was a popular movie at the time.
Yeah, I have not watched that in a while either. But yeah, John Cusack, both Cusacks, yeah, and Jack Black, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Big year for Catherine Zeta-Jones as well.
Yes.
Great in Traffic. Yeah, I like that. Did it come out in March?
Right? This was March, and another one that was March, American Psycho, Christian Bale.
Love American Psycho. That was robbed. Should have been nominated in a lot more categories.
Great. Saw that in the theater. It was definitely a great one to watch in the theater. Just completely unhinged.
Yeah, there were a lot of spring movies I really loved. Final Destination.
Yes.
With my fave Devon Sawa. So fun story, not really fun, but just I love the timing of this, because 2 years ago in March, when lockdown just started, he tweeted that his daughter's birthday party that weekend was obviously canceled. So he found like an open Barnes and Noble, and he went to pick up some more things for her. And Julia Roberts was standing in front of him in line, and he wanted to talk to her, but he didn't know what to say, so he didn't say anything. So he tweeted this, and this day was March 17th, 2020, 20 years to the day of when both of their films, Final Destination, Erin Brockovich, were released. So then I like quoted it, and I was like, you should have just mentioned that Erin Brockovich and Final Destination were both released 20 years ago today.
Amazing. Didn't see either one of those in the theater, actually. I never saw Erin Brockovich in the theater. That was when we watched at home.
I didn't see that in the theater. Nor did I see Final Destination in the theater. And I haven't seen any of the subsequent Final Destinations either.
No, I watched the clips on YouTube, Joyce. I don't love horror movies, so I just watch stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not big on horror movies either.
This is another one that has now had, like, I think, a renewed renaissance. Love and Basketball, Gina Prince Bythewood.
I watched that a lot. Again, did not see that in theater, but watched it all the time on pay-per-view.
Now a Criterion Collection edition. You want to pick it up on Blu-ray.
That's okay. I don't know.
It definitely was a movie. So as someone who lived through that at the time, at least it was not an instant like, how did people miss this classic? I think it was kind of like just like thrown in with a lot of like teen movies at the time. It felt like even if it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like it felt like it was in that kind of like conversation with like maybe a more dramatic version of, you know what I mean, of like 10 Things I Hate About all those different movies that came out the previous year. I think Love and Basketball was a little bit included in that scrum, but it's not really like those at all.
No, because it's a drama.
Yes.
But I think it was just kind of people, or especially like critics, had like no expectations for it, right? It was just kind of this like sports romance drama.
Right.
But yeah, it just kind of like slowly but surely developed a following.
Big fan following, yeah. And yeah. Prince Bythewood in the conversation this year just for The Woman King premiering at TIFF.
Go ahead and predictor.
I don't predict her yet, but I had the movie in for Best Picture. I don't know. We'll see. It reminds me of Gladiator, Joyce. That's why I put it in there. And it's apropos, I guess, that we're talking about this year. Virgin Suicides did not see in the theater, but watched at home. Sofia Coppola, Breakout.
Yeah, great Kiki performance. I just remember that it took a year for this to be released because it premiered at Cannes the year before.
Yes.
But
it very much would have been a suitable movie for 1999.
Yes. So this came out in April. Yeah, so it came out around the same time as one of my faves, Frequency.
About the Mets, I believe.
Yes. Like 30 years apart in 69-99. Just a lot of great stuff. Dennis and Jim Caviezel. And I was very annoyed when the CW rebooted it as a series a couple years ago. Did not watch that because I was like, I am faithful to the movie.
Here's one that I absolutely love. Saw it in the theater. Have not seen it very much since, and actually do want to rewatch it, but I don't even know if it exists. It's called Keeping the Faith. You remember this movie?
Yeah, I saw. That was another pay-per-view movie I watched.
Edward Norton directorial debut, perhaps, coming off like American History X and like his really big run of great movies with Ben Stiller and Jenna Elfman, everybody's favorite Dharma. Just a great movie about a priest and a Jewish guy who fall in love with the same girl.
I thought it was cute.
Really fun. I remember loving it. I've not seen it in so long.
And Anne Bancroft, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would definitely rewatch it. In fact, I'm going to look up to see if I can rewatch it. This is scintillating stuff as usual. Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just mention that this was kind of a sad time for Freddie Prinze Jr. rom-coms. Rom-coms. Because, obviously the year before, She's All That, amazing, iconic. But this year he had Down to You. I mean, I still like that because he drinks shampoo. But he also had Head Over Heels later on this year, which was not that great. So this was kind of like, like the teen movie era kind of on its last legs. Right. In the summer we have the legendary Bring It On.
Yes, I'm gonna plug my wife's book here.
I know what you're gonna do. Yes.
So we'll get to Bring It On in a second. That's a good tease. We still have some spring stuff I want to just run through. We said Center Stage. Did we say that one?
Love Center Stage. I Want to Be With You by Mandy Moore. Just associated with that movie, obviously. So yeah.
Road Trip. You see that one?
I wasn't huge on Road Trip.
A precursor to old school Todd Phillips. That was the first Todd Phillips movie. I think I was like, oh, this guy's making movies that I would like, kind of thing. As you'd be surprised, I liked Road Trip as a graduating college senior, or graduating from college.
Yeah, I've only watched that once.
So Bring It On, Joyce. My wife wrote a book about it. It's coming out in December. Her name is Kay Swickman. I'm doing a plug.
Tell people to pre-order it.
It's on Amazon. You can pre-order right now. Bring It On, the complete story of the cheerleading movie that changed like everything. No, seriously. You can get it right now on Amazon. It's a great book. All about Bring It On. Just talk to everybody involved. Great movie, by the way. And I have it mentioned a lot of times here in my potential Oscars.
It's great. Did she be aggressive in the book? Did she have to be aggressive?
Yes.
Yeah. So being aggressive promoting it. Just a great film. Love it so much. It came out at the end of August. And one thing I love about it is that they don't win.
It's really a great movie. It was one of those ones. So I did not see that in the theater for whatever. I don't know why I didn't see it because I really loved all those teen movies. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, gross cheerleader movie, but I just didn't see it in the theater. But I saw it at home, and it was one of those that I immediately was like, this movie is great. And like you said, it's because it wins. It's really a smart, it's really funny and smart in a way that like felt subversive to the genre, I guess, or what you would expect from the genre.
Yeah, like there are some, I would say, elements of it that have not aged well, but others have aged greatly or well. Like it's about, cultural appropriation.
Yes. And all of this is covered in the book, which is really great. But you're right. There are some parts, like some of the jokes don't age well, but it's also like 2000s comedy, right? So it's like you're going to have like, but, and also, I mean, you could argue that that's because the characters would have also been like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like if you're talking about teenage boys in 1999, 2000, they're going to say things that are not appropriate, let's say.
Yeah, but I love it so much. Just highly quotable.
Incredibly rewatchable.
Yeah, very rewatchable. And then just so many, memes from it, Spirit Fingers, Cliff song, Just What I Need. And so that song is not, so it's by the band Rufus King, who wrote, it's an original song that they wrote for the movie. It should have been nominated for Best Original Song, but that was not on the Bring It On soundtrack. They didn't put it on there. I was so upset. So then I couldn't find it on Napster, so I had to get LimeWire.
Nice.
Found it on LimeWire. It spent like 90 minutes downloaded it off of LimeWire. And it's not even because there's a full version of the song, but the version I got off of LimeWire is just the version in the movie, which is a minute, but I still loved it. So
yeah, really a great movie, highly enjoyable. Let me see other ones I wanted to talk about. Almost Famous. Have you heard of this movie, Joyce?
I am not like a huge fan of Almost Famous. So
wow, I saw Almost Famous opening weekend. It was a great time to be alive for me because it was the 2000 Mets were on the way to the World Series, Joyce. It was their final game of the season that weekend. It came out, I think, around my birthday. I believe my birthday is October 1st, and I believe Almost Famous came out like October 3rd, maybe it was September 15th, and then like a more wider release like later.
It came out the end of September.
Yeah, so it was September 22nd. September 22nd was the release. I saw it the following week for my birthday. Just love this movie so much. Seen it a million times. It felt like a really great movie, and one that I was just like, I remember thinking at the time being like, oh, that's just an immediate classic. A lot of times you used to watch movies and just be like, yep, that's my favorite movie. I don't get that sense anymore a lot of times when I watch stuff where you're just like, oh, that's an automatic movie that I'll still be talking about 20 years from now.
I think Almost Famous is a good movie. I liked it, but it's not my fave, and I just found it just very self-indulgent, obviously for very clear reasons. It's just based on his life, Cameron. To me, it felt like a very boomer movie, and a lot of boomers love this movie. I know you're not a boomers, I guess. Like, it's still like, it's kind of like, yeah, like there's just like certain people who love that movie. And I think like they just relate to that kind of angst and like whatever, or like the aspirations that what's his name? Patrick Fugit is going through.
I gotta say, I still reference it all the time and still like look at the world through that lens a lot. Specifically at the end with the Band-Aid, with Fairuza Balk being like, they eat all the steak. I think about that all the time in a lot of different capacities, especially looking toward younger people. So that's because I'm old man yells at sky. So Almost Famous, great. Some other ones that like I think people like, but I was never super into. I'll read off quick. Remember the Titans? Was that a big one for you?
No, but I love the score. The score is so great, and they play it. Like NBC started using it in their final closing credits at the end of every Olympics. Wow. For their montage, because they play a whole montage of like highlights from the past 17 days. I love it so much. They play like the Dragonheart theme and the Remember the Titans theme. Like, wow, so good. Like sometimes when I'm bored, I go on YouTube and I find old Olympics credits just to watch it. And it's just like, it's so great when the Remember the Titans theme kicks in, because the montage always starts with the opening ceremony and like, the fireworks and the cauldron and everything. Just awesome. So yeah, Remember the Titans, great score.
And then just a lot of these others, well, I'm talking about a lot, I feel like, but I'll just rattle them off. Billy Elliot, The Contender, Requiem for a Dream, saw that in the theater.
Great. I love Requiem for a Dream, and that's a movie I know that people don't rewatch, but I rewatch it. I wouldn't say a lot, but I've rewatched it multiple times. I haven't seen it in a while, but I know so many people who've just seen it once because it's a hard watch.
It's a hard watch. I've definitely watched it more than once though, and it's a good movie. You Can Count on Me, which it was never would have seen in the theater, but I loved it so much. That was great.
It's a great movie. Laura Linney.
That was the first time for me I really took notice of Laura Linney, even though obviously she was in Truman Show, where I was like, oh, that's an actress I should like. And then Mark Ruffalo, obviously, I had not really seen before at all.
Yeah. Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, sure. Fun time.
Yeah. I just remember because Independent Woman was the lead single off of that film, and that was the first Destiny's Child song with the new members.
Yes.
Yeah, because they did that swap. And then Coyote Ugly. I loved Coyote Ugly.
Great time. That's a classic Bruckheimer summer movie, if there ever was one. Just awesome.
Just a lot of great stuff. And then Can't Fight the Moonlight, just all-time jam.
That was a good one. Really like that.
Scary Movie I wasn't into, but that was like a big deal.
So saw that in the theater, thought it was hilarious, and not really a lot of rewatchability there.
Yeah. Miss Congeniality, just love it so much. Rewatch it all the time. April 25th, the perfect date.
I have that coming up. I'll have that coming up later when we talk about the Oscars. The last one I want to bring up, Unbreakable, Joyce. Were you an Unbreakable fan?
I did like that one. Yeah.
So that was obviously M. Night Shyamalan's follow-up to The Sixth Sense. Came out like the next year, because we talked about Sixth Sense in 99. Came out August 99.
Good performances from Bruce and SLJ.
November 2000, here's Unbreakable. People were really amped for it. And I remember going in and being like a little disappointed because it was not a twisty, there is a twist, but it was not a twisty movie.
I feel like people do that with all of his movies.
So it's definitely rewatchable, and obviously he's built a franchise out of it because they bring back Bruce Willis.
I have not seen those.
I saw Split, which I did not like, and it ends as like a connection to Unbreakable, and then there's Glass, which is like the sequel to Split. There's also a continuation of Unbreakable. That's the list. We'll bring up a lot of these. I feel like there's more we'll talk about, but like I said, it's a fine year for movies, I guess. I don't know. I was not did not love this year, but I think it's a good year. It's a
very eclectic year.
Yeah.
And then that it's also, since you didn't read Inside Oscar 2.
Yeah.
Like everyone was fretting because there was no clear Oscar frontrunner.
So I read a New York Times article about that, Joyce. So this was so we'll get into it. The Oscars, this is the 73rd Oscars, Joyce. March 25th, 2001 is a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Hosted by
started at 8:30 because they've pushed it earlier now.
Hosted by Steve Martin, started earlier and only lasted 3 hours and 23 minutes, which was somehow 46 minutes shorter than the previous year. Because
Stickman Bill Conti was on it.
Yes. And for all of that moving and deck chairs and for all the suspense, 42.9 million people watched it, down about 4 million viewers from the year before. So not the greatest. And like you said, going into the ceremony, they call it a master of the Times here, March of 2001, Oscar Master of Suspense. A lot of people didn't know. It's Peter Bart. It's one of those years where it's very dangerous to try to predict. In almost every category, there's a real chance for an upset. Here's a quote from somebody, I don't remember what happened to this guy. I think there is going to be great drama this year, said Harvey Weinstein, chairman of Miramax, whose Chocolat is considered a long shot among the Best Picture nominees. There's nothing for sure this year, except maybe Julia Roberts winning Best Actress for Erin Brockovich.
Yeah, so in Inside Oscar, just a lot of press about how there's no frontrunner, and even Wolfgang Puck was concerned because with just 6 weeks left until the end of the year, there's still no frontrunner. There's not even a middle runner. The vacuum is so noticeable that even Wolfgang Puck, the celebrity chef who works many Oscar parties, was seen approaching a cad Prexy. Love the lingo in Inside Oscar. Robert Rainey asking, where are all the Oscar pictures? Blah, blah, blah. And then like USA Today's Mike Clark looked back from the vantage point of late December and mourned, despite a late spate of cinematic salvations, many tucked away in faraway art houses, the movie year is widely considered dreadful, with some calling it Hollywood's worst since Sound.
Wow.
Yeah, and then voice of reason, Steve Erickson, in Chronicle of a Passion, just got kind of dragged us Americans here. It's become received wisdom that 2000 was a horrible year in film, a judgment that leaves me baffled. If one views mainstream American cinema as the center of the universe, and far too many critics do, only then does it make sense. And then he goes on to list a lot of great international films,
including Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was a humongous breakout and really came on late and could have won probably.
It's something that probably could have won now, but I didn't, even back then, I was like, they're not going to give this to a film that's not in English.
Right. And also it won what was then foreign language film, so it had an easy out there. But from this Times article, it was until November or December, there was remarkably little agreement in Hollywood about which films issued last year would be honored. Not until the year-end releases of Traffic, You Can Count on Me, and Crouching Tiger did the award season begin to come into focus. And yet with all that, Gladiator led all nominations, and I believe had like how many, 12?
And at 12, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon had 10. So the thing was, because there was no late breaking film, like Traffic came really late. I love Traffic so much. It came out December 27th.
Yes.
I saw it in a theater. My friend who was obsessed with American Beauty, we saw that in the theater, and that just became like our favorite movie.
Great movie.
And then we rewatched it all the time. And then so both of our birthdays are in June. And so mine is June 1st. So in 2001, my birthday was on a Friday. Moulin Rouge came out on my birthday. So then I was like planning my party for the next day. And then we were like, what if we just have a party at like our birthday parties and show Traffic? And then I was like, well, I also want to see Moulin Rouge. So I didn't want to see like back-to-back movies. So then she was like, okay, then her birthday is June 24th. So she's like, okay, I'll show it at my birthday party. So then her birthday party, we watched Traffic. It was like, just, I don't know how many teenagers show Traffic at their birthday parties.
Probably not a lot, but it is a great, great film.
Yeah, but anyway, that came out late, and I feel like maybe it could have built more momentum had it come out earlier. But basically, there was no front runner, and then DreamWorks just saw an opening and then pounced with Gladiator, their summer hit. Right. And then they just like built this campaign around this film and pushed it, like basically forced its way as this like sort of like Miramax style, basically, as like this is an option. It was a huge hit, and it plays into like the old school like sword and sandal epic.
Yes.
And like Martin has a joke in the monologue about like, Charlton Heston, he thinks he's in Gladiator.
Yeah. Here was Tom Ortenberg, co-president of Lionsgate, who said, I had definitely had a sense right after the nominations were announced in February that Gladiator was the film to beat for Best Picture with its 12 nominations. But in recent weeks, I have sensed a distinct narrowing, he said, and Crouching Tiger or Traffic could realistically win. So I guess going with that, if there was a little longer season or those movies had picked up a little more momentum earlier, maybe they could have pulled up an upset. And based on how the night played out, I think it would have been Traffic, not Crouching Tiger, that would have won, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Traffic had 5 nominations. It won 4 of them. The only category it lost was Best Picture, presented by Traffic star Michael Douglas.
Yeah, this was a night where a lot of nominees presented awards. Did you notice that? I thought that was like interesting. Not even just for the categories, but like Tom Hanks presented, Kate Hudson presented, a lot of different people. They had Michael Douglas, obviously, for, in part of Traffic. Just, I don't know. And going into it, people were maybe, like you said, like kind of moving off Gladiator because SAG went with Traffic. This is like
Gladiator. So SAG, I mean, that makes sense though for the ensemble,
right?
Because that like very deserved win. But Gladiator had won the Globe for drama.
It won the Globe and the BAFTA.
Yeah, it won the BAFTA. BAFTA was before the Oscars at this point. And it also won Critics' Choice, which still not or different than the Critics' Choice of today.
Yes. This point still. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, and Yeah, and then and then Directors Guild. So the other thing, obviously, Steven Soderbergh, we haven't mentioned yet, double nominee in directing for Aaron Brockovich and Traffic. So DGA went to Ang Lee for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then people just felt like Steven would split his vote.
The Globes went with Gang also.
Yes. So yeah, so this it felt like, and he's coming off of, I mean, Ice Storm, not kind of a flop, but coming off of Sense and Sensibility from 5 years before and everything.
Right.
So it felt like maybe it was like Ang Lee's time too. But obviously Steven Soderbergh won director too. So yeah, it felt like if Traffic had more time and came out earlier, then it maybe could have won. But yeah, Gladiator took a lot of Best Picture wins, or high profile Best Picture wins.
Right. But we talked about this. I think we were talking about this on Slack yesterday. And we'll go through the ceremony here like we usually in the things, but it definitely feels like, to me, this is like one of the last ones where there was so much doubt about all these categories, including like, it's not wrong what Peter Bart was saying, but like picture, director, actor, and supporting actress, I think we're all really, really up in the air. That's 4 of the 6 categories.
We talk about this basically every current Oscar year, and this is like the early 2000s, before the ceremony moved to the end of February in 2004. Like, they were great. Like, they were still full of surprises. Like, it's the landscape has also changed because now of like the internet and press, and like it's much more of like a machinery with like campaigning and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, like these are the last few years where you still had surprises,
and it's great. I mean, we would take one category to surprise us. Now this had 4 different winners that I would say were surprises.
This past Oscars, literally 0 surprises.
Right. And this had 4, literally 4, because especially because I think after Steven Soderbergh wins for Traffic, the Gladiator win is not assured at the end, even though it won 4 awards.
Traffic won an acting award, screenplay, editing, and directing.
And so at the end, like when they announced Gladiator, the Gladiator team is ecstatic and actually shocked. You could tell they're surprised based on how the night went. So it's like a great moment, even if going into the ceremony you were like, oh, Gladiator's going to win. Like, it wasn't like in the final accounting, it's not like a surprise that Gladiator won, right? But I mean, it is a surprise based on how the show played out, I think, in the live moment of time.
Yeah, and it was always, even I remember back then, like at that time, like reading all the articles and the prediction stories, like everyone was very split
right
about it, right? It was very much up in the air. And like, I think it leaned more towards Gladiator just because it won more Best Picture awards and it had the most nominations, but it wasn't a done deal. And it was still like the final total between that, Traffic, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it's like pretty evenly split,
right? Like
their actual wins. So you could say it was really between the 3 of them, although I think Crouching Tiger was still a pretty distant third. And
I think so too, based on how it played out.
Yeah, but most of those wins were crafts. But yeah, like we just don't get these surprises anymore because like people don't think for themselves. There are too many awards. And like everything is too tightly bunched. Remember when the Oscars were February 9th 2 years ago?
Really? Yeah. Not what you want.
This is why I want it back in March, and then but everything else stay in January. Do you like keep like
I think that would be good. And also everybody but us stop talking about it. We're the only site that can talk about it. Joyce, so we go through the I wrote down a few. The opening, the red carpet scenes are not in the Oscars playlist, but this entire ceremony is ripped onto YouTube, so you can watch.
Yeah, you could just go Google that.
I'll just read off some I wrote down, and you can tell me what you got. I got a multi-talented star of film and records, Jennifer Lopez.
Great stuff, because this is also 2 months after she released J-Lo and The Wedding Planner, and was the first person to have a #1 album and #1 record that's the same thing, #1 album, #1 movie in the same week. And I love The Wedding Planner. And then when she presents right after Ben Affleck presents.
Wow,
great stuff.
There's also another love connection later that I thought I kind of pieced together on this as well.
Yeah, well, they've been at Oscars together before, but it was just funny that they were back to back, and then the orchestra played an orchestral version of Love Don't Cost a Thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No one wants to sit next to him at the banquet. Sir Anthony Hopkins.
That's not true. They kick things off with, we've watched her go from teen actress to full-fledged Hollywood star, Winona Ryder.
Incredible. Another one I got. This is a great callback, especially for us who have watched a dozen of these. There's nothing like a Dame. In this case, nominee and former Oscar winner Dame Judi Dench. They're stealing his line, Joyce.
I know, there's nothing wrong with it. So if you're stumped, just go with what works.
I wrote down. I got two other ones I wanted to say because they both go with the theme that we've also seen. That even now here in 2001, just incredibly awful. Stunning Catherine Zeta-Jones and her actor-producer husband, Michael Douglas.
I love that because it also makes Michael Douglas sound like he's a nobody. Like he's just like a random actor-producer, not a 2-time Oscar winner.
It somehow is insulting to both of them.
Yeah, just really good stuff there. This one just, again, poor grammar as usual. The Oscar-nominated daughter of Oscar-winning actress Kate Hudson. You need to say Goldie Hawn in there.
Doesn't make any sense. This was the other one. She will always be the pretty woman. Oscar nominee Julia Roberts. I mean, can we give these people some credit? Catherine Zeta-Jones are the two great movies, like you said, High Fidelity and Traffic. Obviously, should have been a nominee this year. Wins an Oscar the following 2 years from now, I guess, for Chicago. Julia Roberts is an Oscar winner. Everybody knows she's going to win. She was the one predicted that was so obvious, and we're still denigrating them as just attractive.
But it's all, I mean, like, obviously that's a pun, but it's like everyone has made this pun already for the past 10 years.
So then the show opens, Joyce, with a interminable, I believe is the word I was looking for, montage of clips of the Oscars through time as it hurtles through CGI space and lands in the International Space Station. Because
I don't know if you're aware, but this ceremony took place in the year 2001.
And so Gil Cates, who loved to come up with a theme, never met a ceremony he didn't want a theme, was like, 2001: A Space Odyssey? Let's do it.
So the best part of Inside Oscar was that they were just, the disdain they had for like the Oscars asking Gil Cates to come back because the previous ceremony was done by the Xanax. And it was a great ceremony.
We love the ceremony. Great ceremony.
They had always said we're just one and done, right? So they got Gil Cates back. And so this is just text from Inside Oscar too. One prayed that Giltz had at least taken notes while seeing the improvements Richard and Lily Finney-Zanuck had brought to the ceremony last year. But not only did he announce that he was hauling out musical director Bill Conti again, he seemed to possess sadistic tendencies because he uttered the 5 worst words any Oscar viewer could hear. Debbie Allen is coming back. It was a toss-up as to what was more surprising, that Cates had so little respect for the audience that he would again hire this woman, or that with her Saving Private Ryan tap dancing number right up there with the Snow White and Oscar infamy, Allen wouldn't have had the grace and good sense to just say no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hard to argue that this ceremony is better than the previous. I think that previous year ceremony rules, and a lot of the stuff when we talked about that 2000 ceremony, a lot of the production aspects of it, I think, have carried through to modern Oscars. A lot of the camera movements and just the general sense of how it looks. It felt very more modern compared to the Gil Cates
style. This one aesthetically not great, and then just there's nothing. The only thing memorable about the actual production of it itself is Steve Martin.
So Steve Martin's first time host, howling laughing at this monologue. Joyce, I am just the biggest Steve Martin fan. He's so funny. His delivery is perfect. Just
his so good. I prefer his second stint, which is 2 years later. Yeah. But this, I remember lots of lines from this one too. And then even like not just from his monologue, but later just his interstitials when he's just presenting presenters, you know, really like funny. when he does like best actor and then he lists like all the characters and then he's like, oh, like they're all me.
Incredible joke that I didn't write that one. No, I didn't write that one down, but it is incredible because he's like every one of them. It's like really funny joke when he does the best actor.
Yeah.
I wrote down, here are some of the jokes I wrote down, Joyce. Ellen Burstyn, she made herself look 30 pounds heavier and 20 years older, and Russell Crowe still hit on her. Russell Crowe looks like he wants to put a phone through Steve Martin's face at that point.
Well, he initially will do it to a BAFTA producer, so or eventually we'll do it. But the Russell Crowe reaction shots just all time.
This one I love, talking about the Oscar nominee Kate Hudson, Joyce, who is 21 years old. I love welcoming young stars to show business because it reminds me of my own death.
The one I loved was when he was talking about like violence in movies, and he's like, I took a 9-year-old to see Gladiator and he cried throughout the entire film. Now maybe it was because he didn't know who I was.
Incredible joke. The delivery is perfect.
Delivery is so good. It's all about the delivery.
He has a great dick here. I sent you this one talking about what was the movie? Before Night Falls, which got Javier Bardem his first Oscar nomination, Joyce. A movie about a homosexual poet, quote, this is Steve Martin quote, I'm quoting him. A movie about a homosexual poet persecuted by hostile military forces. A movie the rapper Eminem called, quote, the feel-good movie of the year.
I'm the biggest Eminem stan, love a good Eminem joke. So who will win an Oscar in 2 years when Steve hosts again. So
incredible. And then he closes out the monologue. Hosting the Oscars is like making love to a woman. It's something I only get to do when Billy Crystal is out of town.
Billy Crystal, who was filming America's Sweetheart.
Yes.
Yes.
He's a little too busy.
Yeah.
So great. Steve Martin, I thought was great. I like I said, I don't think the production of the show is that great. And it's nothing really stood out otherwise from the production and the show and like a lot of the jokes, but Steve is awesome. Like that was my takeaway from the show in general. So for Best Picture, Joyce, we just talked about this, the most competitive Best Picture race maybe we've done, honestly, I would say on this. The nominees were Gladiator, which won, Chocolat, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Erin Brockovich, and Traffic. Now, 4 of these are great movies. And then there is Chocolat.
So there's a Chocolat. I can't remember the last time I watched Chocolat. Probably just, 22 years ago, whatever.
Yes. Same.
Whenever it came out. It has a lot of, it gets dragged constantly now as being like the LOL, like Harvey push that got in. Because I was Almost Famous, definitely 6th place here.
Well, I have Almost Famous for 6th place for sure. But actually, I was wondering, what if Billy Elliot was 6th place?
I don't think so, because I don't think that was it was like a liked film, but it wasn't like a monster hit.
But it got the director nom.
Yeah, but we've talked about what the directors do.
I know. I'm just saying.
But
I have Almost Famous and Billy Elliot right there.
I don't think it was like the same huge hit like the Full Monty was.
No, it wasn't. But I do think it was 6 and 7. I think in an expanded ballot, it was.
Yeah, like I have those 2 back to back, like Almost Famous and Billy Elliot,
yes.
In 6th and 7th. But so yeah, Inside Oscar, just a lot of dunking on Chocolat and blaming it.
I think it's Chocolat.
On oh my god, I can't even find it. On Harvey, obviously, and then so this was after Gladiator, so after the Oscars, so after it won. So Bob Strauss on the LA Daily News, he wasn't a big fan of Gladiator, but then he called it mostly violent, mind-numbing nominee of the 5. So he was just like complaining about everything. And then he says, we should be elated to see Bite the Dust, however, is Miramax Films' relentless efforts to promote mediocre work to Oscar glory. The Academy reacted strongly to being bamboozled into nominating the soft-centered Chocolat for Best Picture, resulting in a Miramax shutout. Maybe now the company will consider going back to its true glory of making films like The Crying Game, The Piano, and Pulp Fiction, which aesthetically timid Oscar may not have liked all that much, but was forced to show respect for. Now, if only the voting members had been a little more restrained to the equally emphatic Oscar pimping ways of DreamWorks, the studio that pushed so hard for Gladiator and Best Original Screenplay winner Almost Famous.
It is funny or ironic or whatever the word is that like Miramax did come up as like an edgy, thing. And then by this point it had corroded into just the most middlebrow Oscar bait nonsense that like is just trash. And a lot of these movies.
There's so many quotes
like
in here from Harvey, like defending Chocolat, obviously. And then he like challenged a writer, like someone who gave the movie a bad review, like, I dare you to like pick any random theater in the US and then poll people afterwards to see who hated it. So they actually did that. They picked a theater in DC and everyone loved it. So he's just like, see, everyone loves this movie. Like emotion. That's what it's about. It
just is like, it's funny, like taking such a wrong, like rather than like bending to the will of like, rather than getting the Academy to bend to the will of the movies, the company decided to just bend to the will of the Academy with this trash.
Yeah, it's like it's basically, for a lack of a better term, just dumbing down to them because they're just appealing to emotion rather than to like intellectualism.
Correct. So here's the thing though, tough year to come up with 10. I have Billy Elliot, Almost Famous. I have Castaway, which I think would have
I also have Castaway, and then I have Meet the Parents.
I have Meet the Parents as well, on the idea that it was a major hit that people really liked. It was very likable.
Mhm.
And then the last spot, I have 3 movies that I'm not sure any of them would have gotten in. And I don't even know. I definitely think even now, I think Chocolat would have gotten in, as crazy as that is, if you have this list of movies. But I have You Can Count on Me, Wonder Boys, and The Contender vying for the last spot.
I don't know if Contender would have done it because that was like, like slightly controversial.
Yeah.
So I also have Wonder Boys and You Can Count on Me. I think You Can Count on Me would definitely get in now.
I think it would get in now too.
Yeah.
And I think Chocolat might still, Joyce. I don't know. I think it might have.
I think it could too. Like it's still, I remember it just being totally serviceable.
And it's got a lot of acting. I think the actors would have pushed it through.
Sure. And then like its message is totally like run of the mill as well. It's about tolerance. And
so
yeah.
So for winner here, Joyce, Gladiator wins. I actually don't know what I would pick. I think I would still go with Gladiator, but I really want to pick Traffic.
I would totally go with Traffic. I love Traffic so much.
Okay, I have to rewatch Traffic, but I think I would pick I don't think it's like, all I'll say is I don't think this is the wrong pick. I don't think they made a mistake.
I don't have an issue with Gladiator winning.
No.
It's like the same way I feel about Saving Private Ryan and Shakespeare in Love, even though like Saving Private Ryan is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
But I like in a way that Gladiator won. I don't think it's a perfect movie or the best movie of this year of 2000, but it is. And I know part of its win is because of this heavy campaign that DreamWorks put behind it to get it to the forefront, because like over that summer, it was not talked about as a best picture hopeful, like the way that like Saving Private Ryan was, even, because that came out in July in 98. So I know like the campaign had a lot to do with it, but it is cool that this like summer popcorn movie that's just basically kind of like turn off your brain entertainment, really. But it does have like a sort of like emotional through line, because he's like avenging the deaths of his kid and his wife, so there's like it tugs on your heartstrings on that, and like a lot of entertaining Coliseum fights and everything. So it is like, I don't think this type of film will win now, so it is kind of cool to see it win, because it's still not a typical best picture winner.
So I think it's funny that we spend a lot of energy and oxygen talking about how like the Academy doesn't take superhero movies seriously now, but I mean Gladiator is a superhero movie basically.
Yeah, but it's just in the Coliseum, and it's like sword and sandals, but like they've responded to movies like that.
But I'm just saying, like, it's funny that no one mentions it as like, oh well, this actually movie has won within the last like 2 decades, even though it's not a technical superhero movie. It is he's not in tights. It is like the same kind of thing though. The beats are the same and the spectacle is the same. It's actually better than most superhero movies because I think the effects are way better, and it won for effects, which it should have. But anyway, I don't know. I think I would still pick Gladiator. And then best director choice. So Steven Soderbergh wins for Traffic. Fuck yes. Steven Soderbergh, one of my favorite directors. Incredible
iconic speech as well, and he was drunk during the speech. Iconic
speech, getting ready to go back to shoot Ocean's 11, which is another one of my favorite movies. Just
love Ocean's 11. And Julia, she hasn't started production on Ocean's 11 yet, so she starts in 2 days.
This guy is just just a legend. I just want to read off the run here of movies. He does Out of Sight in this is like, he's done obviously like Sex, Lies, and Videotape and these, Grey's Anatomy, King of the Hill, all these like serious indie movies. He comes out in 98, Out of Sight. Absolute banger. Love it so much. The Limey. Totally rules. Aaron Brockovich in Traffic, same year. Arguably as good as Jurassic Park and Schindler's List for Steven Spielberg. For a director doing 2 movies in 1 year. Then he comes
and then that 2001, December 7th, 2001, Ocean's 11.
Ocean's 11.
One of my faves.
Absolutely iconic. 2002, Full Frontal and Solaris. That's one for him. Solaris was a polarizing movie. Ocean's 12, which I think is the greatest sequel of all time. Love it so much. Superior to Ocean's 11. It is a fantastic movie.
No.
Totally rules. The Bubble, which was not a great one. Good German, fine. Ocean's 13, actually good also. Che Part 1 and 2 rules. Just an incredible run. Contagion and Haywire in the same year in 2011. Magic Mike. No, who's better than Steven Soderbergh?
Well, you also didn't mention producing the Oscars last year.
I don't remember him producing the Oscars. Did that happen?
Yeah, so that guy that no one wants to sit with at the banquet, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
They presented his category last. That was
wow.
Steven Soderbergh.
That must have been wild. I should go back and look at that.
And he didn't go to the ceremony.
No, really.
Yeah, so, but that's what it ended on. Just Joaquin Phoenix nominated this year for Gladiator, presented to the guy that no one wants to sit next to at the banquet.
So Soderbergh wins for Traffic. The other nominees were Stephen Daldry for Billy Elliot, Ang Lee for Crouching Tiger, Steven Soderbergh for Aaron Brockovich, and Ridley Scott for Gladiator. An absolute coup that Steven Soderbergh won for Traffic. I'm really glad he won. I think he probably won for both Aaron Brockovich and Traffic, and I think somehow the consensus was Traffic was the one to pick. I don't know how they did it, but that was what they did.
I mean, it was very obvious that like Traffic was the more the bigger artistic achievement, because he also was the cinematographer on this. He used a pseudonym for it, and I think people know that.
Yes,
that he used a pseudonym. What was it?
His Peter Andrews is his pseudonym for cinematography.
Yeah, it was.
He usually does his own editing, but he didn't edit this one. Steve Miriam.
Yeah, and like I mean, Traffic is great because obviously a triptych, 3 separate stories, and then I mean, kind of a crutch. He used like color coding to differentiate the settings. No like on screen like location.
Right. It's a crutch that he created, though. I feel like it was not at the time.
Great. I loved it so much because it's just
something that people did a lot.
Yeah, like it works for like all 3, even though now like people drag like, oh, why do you like everyone uses yellow to like show like hot places like Mexico and stuff. Right. But yeah, it was great. And then the way it was put together as well, like most of these people do not meet in this movie. But you can still follow everything, and it just flows together really well. And I thought like the ending was great. Actually, the ending for like all 3 of the chapters was great. But I think people view this as like the bigger achievement, where like Aaron Brockovich, great movie, but it's still just kind of like you're pretty traditional, not a biopic, but just like based on a true life or real life story.
It's just like a courtroom drama without the courtroom, basically.
Yeah. That also had great cinematography as well, like similar to the San Diego lighting that he didn't shoot.
It's funny, he did not do Ed Lachman did Aaron Brockovich, which is he's another great cinematographer. Yeah, I'm really glad Steven Soderbergh won for this, and I'm as much the thing that kills me is another category where I was like, wow, I just look at this and I'm like, I cannot believe no one's given Ridley Scott an Oscar, right, for directing.
He should have produced Gladiator.
And I think he probably, if he was ever going to win, he would have won for Gladiator. But I also don't think you could deny Steven Soderbergh.
But no one, the thing was like, no one was even predicting him to win for Gladiator, because everyone just was like Ang Lee. Because
not at all. And Ang Lee obviously has won 2 directing Oscars, so I don't feel bad that he lost for Crouching Tiger in the end. Like, I think it's fine. But I do feel like Ridley Scott really should have an Oscar, and this would have been his best shot.
Ang Lee is just part of chaotic Oscar years, because he obviously lost here in a year when Steven Soderbergh won with double noms, didn't vote split, and then his movie didn't win, and then Ang Lee obviously had the Brokeback Crash split, and then he won for Life of Pi when Ben Affleck was snubbed.
Right.
Yeah.
And both those wins, I'm very glad he has. I think Ang Lee's a great filmmaker, but I'm so thrilled for Steven Soderbergh. And like you said, great speech. Really great moment. Other people I wrote down, Joyce, for this category. So like we said, so Stephen Daldry did not get a Best Picture nomination, but did get a Best Director nomination. And then the others are all Best Picture nominees. So I have, because of that, I have Lasse Hallström for Chocolat as my 6th.
Your favorite filmmaker, Lasse Hallström.
Who is referenced on the telecast by a guy named Kevin Spacey, who comes out and says, where he's shooting a movie in Nova Scotia, which I believe is
the
Shipping News, which is another Miramax middlebrow trash Oscar bait movie that did not work.
And he had forgotten his talks.
Yes.
In Nova Scotia, and then Judi Dench had to bring it to him when she. So
I've lost Hallström as the alternate director. I also think Robert Zemeckis should have been a seriously consideration for Castaway. It's a technical achievement that is really remarkable.
Yeah. I don't recall anyone even like mentioning him. Truly.
No, I don't think so either. But I do think, and especially as if you look at his filmography now, I think it is like one of his best directorial efforts. I don't know. Other people I wrote down, Cameron Crowe for Almost Famous, though obviously because he was going to win writing, maybe not necessarily a need to give him a directing nomination. And I think even if Almost Famous got nomination for Best Picture, he still would not have gotten in for Best Director.
No, and the funny thing is like there's like a quote from Inside Oscar after they interview him about the nominations and Almost Famous being snubbed, and he's like, it's fine because it is what it is, and he's like, our actresses got in, and you always want your actors to get in because then more actors want to work with you.
That's fair. Other people I wrote down, I was wondering, I don't know, again, if maybe these guys would have gotten more serious consideration. Sofia Coppola for Virgin Suicides, I think there would have been a big push to get her in now. I don't think she would have gotten in then.
No, there was like no talk.
No chance. Ed Harris for Pollock, I think would have gotten a bigger push now.
Yeah, but that the release for that movie was also just kind of, they like SPC, Sony Pictures Classics, I think that it was their number 2 after Crouching Tiger.
Right. A lot of VHS tapes for that one, Joyce, as we'll talk about when we get to Marcia Gay Harden, who won for Best Supporting Actress. And then I wrote down Darren Aronofsky for Requiem for a Dream.
I would love, like, I have him and Mary Harron for American Psycho, like, who would never get in. Neither of them would get in.
Neither would get in, but those are the kind of, I think you could maybe now Requiem for a Dream would hit in a way that would get him in.
Yeah, because it would be like the film Twitter pick now.
Yeah. And this is before Darren Aronofsky became somehow problematic or whatever. So I think like
Darren Aronofsky is there with Ellen Burstyn, totally baby faced. It's like sitting next to her.
It's so cute. He looks like a little boy. Anyway, Steven Soderbergh, I love it. Love that he won an Oscar. I interviewed him for Ocean's 12, Joyce. I'm not even kidding. I think Ocean's 12 is like a remarkable achievement. I
don't hate it as much as a lot of people hate Ocean's 12, but
they're wrong.
I don't rewatch that or Ocean's 13. Maybe rewatch Ocean's 11.
Oh, I love all of them. But anyway, Best Actor choice. Russell Crowe. We were entertained. He wins for Gladiator. The other nominees are Javier Bardem for Before Night Falls, Tom Hanks for Castaway, Ed Harris for Pollock, and Jeffrey Rush for Quills. So you have 2 former Best Actor winners. Russell Crowe maybe getting a makeup Oscar here for losing The Insider, and Javier Bardem ascended, and Ed Harris.
So it's funny because like no one was predicting Russell Crowe to win for The Insider, and I don't even recall there being that much outrage of him having lost. It was just like, oh, this like up and coming star finally got like an Oscar nomination, right? But there wasn't like outrage about it. So it's not makeup in that sense. It feels like they were just, it was like his time almost. But obviously, as we've talked about, also a very split race. The only televised precursor he won was Critics' Choice. So because the Globes went to Tom Hanks, Comedy Globe went to Clooney for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? BAFTA went to their hometown boy, Jamie Bell, Billy Elliot. And then SAG went to Benicio del Toro for Traffic. Because the way SAG works is that you actually have to submit people in the category, unlike the Oscars, where the voters can just nominate people wherever category they want. But SAG, it's like pre-submitted categories. And then inside Oscar, the USA Films head, USA Films, which distributed Traffic, they were just like, we just decided to see what would happen. Like, he's like, it's no loss for us if he didn't get in. So we was just like, we'll just submit him and lean and see what happens. And if it works, it works. And it did.
And he won.
Yeah. Like, not only did he get in, he won.
Pulling at the thread of a sweater that we've been pulling. If Denzel Washington wins for Malcolm X over Al Pacino, which he should have done, and then Tom Hanks wins over Russell Crowe for Castaway, which I think you could argue maybe he should, because again, Tom Hanks does not have a third Oscar and should. And I think this would have been his best shot at that in the last like 20 years. Then does Russell Crowe win for Beautiful Mind over Denzel for Training Day in the next year?
But then are we still keeping true that he assaulted a BAFTA producer?
Yeah. I don't think people care. Do you think people care?
No, I don't think like he at this point he still had his like bad boy reputation, because this is also coming off of his affair with Meg Ryan.
Yes.
On the set of Proof of Life.
Correct.
No, but I think violence is something.
We've seen that with a guy named Will Smith, Joyce.
What happened there?
I think he slapped Chris Rock.
Oh, really? I missed that.
Yeah, I see. You got to watch these Oscars, Joyce. You're missing so much good stuff.
It's just hard to watch them now because you just know who's going to win, and it's just not interesting anymore. I need some shockers like Marcia Gay Harden.
I mean, I guess, like, do you think he should have won for Gladiator?
Yeah, I think like I don't have an issue with the win.
Me neither.
And it's like it's also not, it's like also an atypical win too, right?
Right.
Because it's not the type of, you don't think of this as like an Oscar bait type of role. And I think like just like with Best Picture and the state of that race, I think things aligned for him to win this too. Because Jeffrey Rush was not winning. Ed Harris, he probably felt really good after Marcia Gay Harden won.
But he was not going to win. I don't
And
think
like
there was any
this was
shot.
his baby. Like he directed this. He'd been working on it
Right.
for like a decade.
Right.
Javier, first nom, congratulations to him. And Tom, I still at this point, I like back then, I didn't think he was going to win because I thought it was too soon for him to win a third Oscar.
And I think that's really what it was. And I think it was also like, it's Tom Hanks. We'll just give him the third Oscar some
And
other
then he
time.
wasn't nominated for 19 years.
Right. And that's the problem, I think, is that it just was like, oh, we kind of blew our shot. Like in hindsight, you wish he would have won for Castaway because I think it's a great performance. And obviously he should have 3 Oscars based on his body of work. But at the time,
but that's
it's
still
like
such a close period of time because
Right.
Philadelphia 93, Forrest Gump 94, Castaway 2000.
Right. It's not that long a spread. And like you said, like we said, like I understand why he didn't win. And I think it makes sense that Russell Crowe won when you're looking at it like that. But I do wish that Tom Hanks had a third Oscar, and I think he could have won for Castaway, I guess. Joyce, I have some people I would put in. So I have Jamie Bell for Billy Elliot instead of Jeffrey Rush.
Jamie would have been good, BAFTA winner, but you know he was still a young boy.
And then how do we get Mark Ruffalo in? And who do we bump? For You Can Count on Me.
I mean, he fits the Ed Harris spot. That's
so I boot Ed Harris out and put Mark Ruffalo in.
Mark
Mark Ruffalo and You Can Count on Me, just an iconic, like, holy cow, this guy's like the next Brando performance. It's so good. He's incredible in the movie.
Yeah, it's a really great film. I would do Christian Bale, obviously, for American Psycho.
Christian Bale, American Psycho, really great. No notes there. So good. And then how would you find room for Chow Yun-fat and Michael Douglas?
I mean, Javier is really good too.
I don't like. I was like, I don't think Chow Yun-fat would even get in now for the movie because
like, the best performances in that movie are Michelle Yeoh and Zhang Ji.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I had Chow Yun-fat down too, but like distantly.
Yeah. Another guys I mentioned, I thought Johnny Depp for Chocolat. Sure. And Bruce Willis for Unbreakable would have never happened. I think in hindsight, this would have been a nice nomination, especially with Bruce's health problems that forced him to retire from acting. But he's great in Unbreakable. It's a really good performance.
I think it would have been more, I don't think either was likely, but I think it would have been more likely for The Sixth Sense.
And we didn't mention this movie at all yet, but George Clooney for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
He won the Globe, but this was just like a stepping stone for him.
Yeah.
Eventual Oscar success.
So for Best Actress, Joyce, the Pretty Woman herself, Julia Roberts, wins. Incredible. So I rewatched Erin Brockovich last night. Incredible performance. So good. Very deserving. The other nominees are Joan Allen for The Contender, Juliette Binoche for Chocolat, Ellen Burstyn for Requiem for a Dream, and Laura Linney for You Can Count on Me. Great list of actresses.
Great list. I mean, my personal favorite is Ellen Burstyn, but I have no issue with Julia's win. Everyone knew she was the only lock of the night, really.
Even Harvey Weinstein.
Like Crouching Tiger for a foreign language film too, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, like this was like her time. Everyone knew it, and yeah, it's a great performance, and it's the type of like it's an like an important film. I guess it's about an issue, right? And it's kind of like sort of like an underdog, like take on the world type of thing as well. And she brings down an evil corporation, and it's a real story. But it's also like such a movie star performance, and she's so great in it. And like to go back what we were saying earlier about like, you know, movie stars now, like, or movie stars no longer born now, like it's the same type of thing here. It's just like she just like is so luminous on screen, and everything about that performance works.
I think there's, maybe I'm wrong, because I think people really do love Erin Brockovich and understand this, but I think if you ask like a normie, they might be like, oh, that's like a Blind Side like kind of win where it's just like movie star doing something. But I'm like, Erin Brockovich is so much better than the Blind Side.
a better movie than The Blind Side.
And I think the reason that it works is because, like you said, it is a pretty typical like movie star stuff, and the movie is like underdog story and all these things. But the way Soderbergh does it and the way they do it, it's both very natural, like all the like it is a movie star performance, but and like no one else in the movie is a real movie star, but everyone is great around her. He surrounds her with like an incredible supporting cast that totally knows the material. The way it's shot is awesome. The way it's edited is amazing, and it's just a great movie. In addition to being a great movie,
well written. Like there's so many
Yes.
hilarious lines, like a lot of great burns, so much dunking.
That's all you got, lady.
Yeah. Like
2 wrong feet and fucking ugly shoes. Stuff iconic.
And then I just love, like, even at the end, you know, she gets burned by Albert Finney when like he gives her the car and stuff. Like
so great.
Yeah.
Her speech, as you recalled earlier, Joyce, Stickman, gets a lot of play. I see you, Stickman. She has a 5-minute speech, basically.
I don't think I think the whole video is 5 minutes, but it's also the presentation.
I think it's a 4-minute speech, basically.
Yeah, but love the speech. I still remember watching it live because they obviously saved that was the last acting category, and saved that one for last. I remember her getting caught in her dress and Benjamin Bratt having to help her up. But again, we've talked about previously in other past playbacks, just people being happy to win.
She's thrilled.
She's so happy up here. She loves it up here.
Yeah, and
she loves the world.
It's great. And like you said, this is a great list of nominees. I don't ever really have. I think Joan Allen in the contender is awesome. I love Joan Allen. Juliette Binoche and Chocolat. I love Juliette Binoche. Not so much Chocolat. Ellen Burstyn in Requiem, incredible performance. And Laura Linney, and You Can Count on Me, I feel like is an unbelievable performance, and maybe would have a lot of film Twitter love now.
Yeah, that's the film Twitter pick. She won. She and Julia split the critics, the top, the big three, and also NBR. And even Binoche, she was. I think they said she was in a Today Show about, and then she was like, "Oh, Julia, when I love Julia, she should win." There's an anecdote in Inside Oscar that says even. Harvey Weinstein told Julia to vote for Julia Roberts. Yeah, but it's a good lineup. I would do Michelle Yeoh for Crouching Tiger. I would bump Juliette.
Yes, I think that's a really obvious one, and now would easily happen. The other one that had a lot of buzz that I don't think is actually that good is Renee Zellweger for Nurse Betty. That was like a fall kind of like, this is going to get her an Oscar, and it was not. It
was just Renee ascendant, like awards ascendant, because in 2001 she will have Bridget Jones's Diary, and then she'll get nominated for that next.
And then Chicago, and then Cold Mountain.
Yeah, like so she won the Comedy Globe for Nurse Betty. So yeah.
The people I wrote down that I think I would really love to talk or just get up would be Kirsten for Bring It On, not Virgin Suicides. Kirsten,
great stuff. Love Kiki. Bring It On. I would also do Sandra Bullock in This Congeniality.
Yes, I have that one down too, and I think those would have been great. And I think now, if it was 2022, Sanaa Lathan would have gotten a little shine for Love and Basketball.
She would have been talked about, I guess.
She could have gotten like a New York Film Critics Circle Best Actress winner, because
they just do that type of stuff now.
Yeah. So that's Best Actress. Love Julia, the best. Best Supporting Actor, Joyce. Benicio del Toro wins for Traffic. The other nominees are Jeff Bridges for The Contender, Willem Dafoe for Shadow of a Vampire, Albert Finney for Erin Brockovich, and Joaquin Phoenix for Gladiator. Joyce, I love Benicio. He was an easy win. I think Albert Finney should have won for Erin Brockovich.
Very sad that Albert Finney never won an Oscar, RIP.
It's just a great performance. He's so committed and so good, and it's like got all the I think it has all the parts. I understand why Benicio won, and I was way into Benicio winning at the time, but I just think I wish Albert Finney would have won an Oscar, and I don't know where you would have given Benicio one. That's the other issue. Like, I love that Benicio del Toro has an Oscar. I don't know what else he would have won for though, so I guess it's fine, but maybe it would have been nice if they could have figured out a way to get them both an Oscar. Like Albert Finney won at SAG, like you said, because Benicio won Best Actor. So
yeah, I mean, Benicio was nominated again for 21 Grams, but that was Tim Robbins' year. Yeah, I love him in Traffic. Great performance. I love his final shot when he's just like watching the kid. Oh,
So
just
great.
like devastating. And like so much of that performance is internal. And yeah, obviously also mostly Spanish. And I believe he didn't even know Spanish. Like he wasn't fluent in Spanish, so he just learned
It's a
Spanish.
great, I mean, it's a great performance. I'm not knocking it all. And I'm glad he
Yeah,
won.
it
But I
just sucks.
wish,
It's a miss, right? Like Albert Finney never won an Oscar.
right. And he's so good in the movie. Joyce, I wrote down other people, a lot of other people, as usual, with the supporting categories for men, especially. Usually there's a ton of contenders. Billy Crudup for Almost Famous. Just love that performance. I think he's so good as Russell Hammond. Gary Oldman for The Contender was I think a SAG nominee.
Gary was very upset that he was being pushed supporting because he considered himself lead.
Right.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro for Meet the Parents.
Do you consider him lead or supporting?
I think he's lead that I would fraud in supporting.
I think like definitely now he would be frauded in supporting.
Yeah, he's a lead, but I would fraud him in supporting.
Yeah, he was nominated lead at the Globes, but I also have him here in support. It's kind of like the Jack Nicholson in Batman thing again.
And then two Soderbergh guys. Michael Douglas for Traffic, I think could have made it seems like he would have gotten in for this.
I think he would have gotten in for Wonder Boy as an actor and not for this, but I think like that's a good twofer for him. So I think people were more surprised that he didn't make it in for Wonder Boys. I think he's good in Traffic. He's just like the concerned dad who kind of
it was a part that Harrison Ford was going to play.
Yeah, they wanted Harrison Ford. But yeah, he's this like conservative judge, and he just at the end, you know, he kind of sees the light and like the issues of like the war on drugs. Everything, and he vows to listen. Yeah, a good performance. I don't know if I would have given him an Oscar nomination for it though.
And then I have Aaron Eckhart down for Aaron Brockovich too.
That's a good support. That would get it would get a lot of like critics mentions.
Definitely. I think so. He's really good in it, even though his character does. I think his character's. I don't agree with the character because I think he's like a dick to her, because like he's just like, pick me over your career, and she's like, go fuck yourself. And rightfully so. And it does it in a nicer way. And at the end, it ties together because she gets to take him to see like all the sacrifices that he made, like helped her as well. Like I think it's a really nice button on the movie, but
I also have Jared Leto for Requiem for a Dream. I love that movie so much.
He's great in it. He's incredible.
People, you know, these days just forget that he's a great actor. He also was in American Psycho, great American Psycho.
Yes.
But I love that performance. I love that whole cast. So he would have been a good nominee for that. Like he had just a lot of great scenes with Ellen Burstyn.
Mm-hmm. He's awesome in it.
And then like the phone call scene with Jennifer Connelly, just good stuff.
Anybody else before we move to supporting actress?
No, and that so Benicio.
What a thrill!
Yeah, Julia swept, and Benicio was like the next biggest sweeper because he lost Critics' Choice to Joaquin.
Right. No mention of Joaquin there. I remember thinking fine performance, really good villain. You can't wait for his character to get killed, and then he gets killed, and you're like, good. It's totally fine.
Joaquin had a great time at that ceremony.
He did. He looks.
I remember him just being very psyched for everyone who was winning.
So Wonder Boys, we talked about briefly. Any shot of Robert Downey Jr. or Tobey Maguire here?
No.
Okay. Supporting actress choice. Marcia Gay Harden, the shocker, winning for Pollock. What a thrill. And then the other nominees were Judi Dench for Chocolat, Kate Hudson for Almost Famous, Frances McDormand for Almost Famous, and Julie Walters for Billy Elliot. The consensus was that Kate Hudson was easily going to win this.
I wouldn't say easily, but she felt like the ingenue pick that they would gravitate toward.
Yes. A Gwyneth Paltrow type win.
A great category or a great race rather, because it was split all the way because Kate won the Globe, Frances won Critics' Choice, Judy won SAG, Judi Dench won SAG, sort of a makeup because she didn't win SAG for Shakespeare in Love. And unsurprisingly, Julie Walters won BAFTA. So 4 of them had precursors, and then you had the surprise nominee, Marcia Pollock, who only won.
Marcia Gay Harden.
Marcia Gay Harden. She had no nominations at any of those televised precursors. She only won New York critics, film critic circle. And yeah, so people, I remember back then, like a lot of people predicting Kate because it was just like, Goldie Hawn's daughter, she's the right age. And that was like, Penny Lane, like star making performance as
Yes.
well. Because this was the second category and Nicolas Cage presents it because Michael Caine is filming, so he can't come back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, that was like a huge shocker.
A
It was
total
like,
shocker.
yeah, not as surprising as like Juliette Binoche beating Lauren Bacall because she was way more of a consensus pick, but still just completely left field. And you will never see this again today.
So Joyce, we both read this in preparation for this. Marcia Gay Harden did a great interview with Matt Jacobs. I know Matt. I would consider him a friend.
I mean, I read this last year when it was published.
And talked all about this victory and how surprising it was.
It was great stuff. Yeah.
She credits the VHS tapes.
Yeah, this was a thing back then as well. I remember because there was also controversy because they could only send either VHSs or the new thing on the block, DVDs, to voters. One or the other, you had to choose. And SPC had accidentally, in quotes, they claim shipped both versions of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon to members, and they claimed they only sent out the VHSs because the DVDs weren't ready yet. Anyway, they also had Pollock, and they just bombarded voters with VHSs of Pollock because Pollock also just was in theaters for 1 week to qualify for the Oscars, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so then they were just depending on the tapes, the at-home viewing. So clearly people watched it. So I had not seen Pollock when the Oscars rolled around yet, but then when they were playing the clips, and then her clip, when after that played, I was like, wow, that's a really good Oscar bait clip. And then she wins.
So, and she says that, I think you guys you watch the tapes. She says it in her speech. That's like her first thing. She's like, thank you for watching. And like, it's incredible in that interview. That's what she says. Yeah. So, and she also, like you said, it's something that would never happen again. It was, seemingly.
Yeah. So in a separate interview in 2019, she was interviewed by HuffPo. And then she said, I wasn't nominated for a Golden Globe. I wasn't nominated for a SAG. I was nominated for an Academy for it's missing an award here, and I won. And so I look back and I'm like, wow, that happened to you. You're so lucky. You were so blessed. That happened to you. And then she says, now this is in 2019. Today, I don't know what would happen to me. It seems to me it's like a different world. It seems astonishing that it did and wonderful that it did. And it's true because now it's just rubber stamping all the way. Sheep, hive mind, everything's samey, unless for some reason like a lineup doesn't match up.
Yes.
And
in her interview, she also talks about how everybody was happy for her except for maybe one person.
Yeah. And then this got a lot of pickup, or this is the noted pickup by a lot of other sites. Just
the aggregators really love that one.
Yeah, just everyone all over the place picking up this. Let me see where.
Too many tabs, Joyce.
I know. Well, this interview is also very long. So she also thought Kate was going to win.
Seemingly everybody thought Kate was going to win.
Yeah. So she says here, when they call my name, it was a blur, blah, blah, blah. And so she also prepared a speech.
Well, it's funny. I think that must have been a thing. I read that in this. And then when you watch the ceremony back, a lot of people were like, I wrote it in the car in 45 seconds. I think, every year they do the Oscar nominees luncheon and they talk about being prepared and having it.
They talk about that in here too.
And I think a lot of people did that. Yeah.
Bill Cates obviously wanted to run a type ship.
So everybody multiple people went up there, was like, I got my 45 seconds. Here I am. So she was one of them who did this.
Yeah. So then Matt talks about, so he's basically saying the same thing we were just talking about, like how nowadays it feels so stale by Oscars night. It's the same for people winning every single award. Even when it's deserved, it becomes a little dull. So it's to see a thrilling win like yours, where everybody thought it was going to be Kate or Frances or whatever, is so exciting. And then she says, like, it feels great, and it's like it's like great to see like new blood. And then oh my god, this is so long. Okay, so and then by the way, I felt the girls were really happy for me as well. There was one I will not mention, but it wasn't Kate, who seemingly wasn't so happy. And then she gives this long answer about her Harry Winston jewels that she had to return because they were rented. And then Matt loops back to Julie. He just makes a joke about Julie Walters being upset that she won. And then Marcia Gay says it's not her. And then she says, but I would never say anything negative because what a night. And then
what a thrill.
Yeah, what a thrill. So then Matt says, but the other two people in the category, Frances McDormand, Judi Dench, both had won Oscars in the past few years. Yes, she says. But one of them was less than satisfied. And she says, and I'm friends with Frances McDormand. There you go. So people, you can't blame them.
No, she says right there. I mean, there's
like process of elimination. Yeah, Judi Dench is the only one left. And then, so he says, Judi Dench, because he says like Frances doesn't give a shit about awards, and Marcia Gay says, yeah, Frances doesn't give a shit, so whatever. But then everyone picked it up that Judi Dench was unhappy.
Yes,
she lost to Marcia Gay Harden.
Yes,
and then Marcia Gay Harden had to clarify that
she never met Judi, and she actually doesn't say that she wasn't unhappy though. If you read between the lines,
and you don't have to have met Judi Dench to know that she was unhappy.
Right. Though I gotta say, Judi Dench seems like a great straight shooter. Someone who totally understands everything. I have the utmost respect for her. There's no way she thought she was going to win for that movie or performance. I just don't believe
and
that.
She had already won 2 years before that, and she was surprised that she had won for Shakespeare in Love.
Maybe she was surprised that Marcia Gay Harden won, but I don't think she thought she was going to win. And maybe, and again, it's tough to tell. You don't know in the moment you don't want to read people's faces and too much into it, and whatever. It got aggregated around, but hopefully all is well in the Marcia Gay Harden and Judi Dench text chain.
Yeah. They maybe Marcia Gay voted for Judi in Belfast.
So Joyce, coolest of nominees here, right? Like we said, I'm not I love Kate Hudson in Almost Famous. I think Frances McDormand was a shocker because you weren't really expecting her, and she's actually not in it very much. I think that shows the affection for Frances McDormand as a performer with the Academy.
She was Critics' Choice. She was showing up places.
She was showing up places, but it's not a role that I think
it wasn't going to win. I don't think people. Most people were predicting Kate to win.
And then Julie Walters for Billy Elliot. It seems likely that Kate and Frances probably split the vote enough to help Marcia win, I would argue. I also think this was a really close race. Because like you said, everybody won something. And so it seems like there was probably a good consensus split among the four besides Marcia.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think maybe if Billy Elliot were a bigger hit, then maybe Julie could have won. I don't think Judy was winning.
I think if Billy Elliot was Best Picture nominee, Julie maybe could have won.
Judy was just an Afterglow nomination.
And here's why I wish, this is what I was looking at. So many great people not on this list. This is a great year for supporting actress contenders. You could actually fill
Catherine Zeta-Jones, who was nominated at the Globes.
So Catherine Zeta-Jones nominated at the Globes. Kate Winslet was nominated at the SAG Awards for Quills. Not one of my favorite Kate Winslet performances, but at least we'll mention her. But the two I was just the three, I think, beyond even Catherine Zeta-Jones, Jennifer Connelly for Requiem for a Dream obviously wins the following year for Beautiful Mind.
I would have nominated 3/4 of that cast.
It's an incredible performance. And obviously it was one that kind of came out of left field because I don't think people were taking Jennifer Connelly serious as an actor at this time, and certainly helped her.
Well, it's like a
Beautiful Mind
adult turn.
Yeah. And I think it definitely helped her with Beautiful Mind that she had this in the back pocket, that she had the previous year showed that she was someone to be somebody to be taken seriously, and then won the next year. So, but I still would have nominated for Requiem for a Dream. It's incredible. Like you said, Zhang Zi for Crouching Tiger definitely could have gotten in.
And then she would eventually be snubbed for Memories of a Geisha. So
yes. And then I have Erica Christensen down for Traffic too. I just love that performance. It's a great
performance. And I feel like that's one now that would have gotten a lot of breakthrough performance.
Erica Christensen was the Sydney Sweeney of her time.
I wouldn't go that far. No.
This is a great, honestly,
don't insult her like that. That's not a knock on Sydney Sweeney, but don't compare them.
I think they would be. I think Eric Christensen in 2000 would have been in Euphoria if there was a show called Euphoria at the time.
No.
Anyway, it's a great performance. I just love her in the movie so much. I think she's great in Traffic, and it was definitely one of those things oh wow, take notice of this actress, and she's great. And like I said, we've been rewatching Parenthood. You know who rules? Erica Christensen.
She needs to do something else now that Parenthood is over.
Well, Parenthood's been over for years, Joyce.
Yeah, I know. That's why she needs to do something else.
And usually when we do these, I'm struggling to find other supporting actress contenders. It's not always the strongest category, but this you could actually have
well, it just depends on the year. Some years are very weak.
You could have literally 5 different nominees than the one that they had, and it still would be a good list, I guess would be my case. I don't understand how Catherine Zeta-Jones didn't get in either. just seems impossible to me. But there you go. She'll win later for Chicago.
I still love that performance because she is basically like a female version of Walter White before Walter White, which is also great because her husband in the movie is played by Steven Bauer, who is Don Eladio.
Yes.
In the Breaking Bad verse. So, but like that's, she's just like plotting and scheming while pregnant.
It's great.
And she's just looking out for her fam.
Doing what you do.
Yeah, great stuff there.
So that's the acting categories. We go to original screenplay and adapted screenplay. I have a few. I mean, but we usually do these solid winners. Cameron Crowe for Almost Famous wins. The other nominees were Billy Elliot, Lee Hall, Aaron Brockovich, Susanna Grant, Gladiator, David Franzioni, John Logan, and William Nicholson. And then You Can Count on Me, Kenneth Lonergan. Love that Cameron Crowe won for Almost Famous. Feels right. I think Kenneth Lonergan would have gotten a lot more shine now. Though I think if I had to pick an alternate to Cameron, it would have been Susanna Grant for Aaron Brockovich.
Cameron Crowe winning, it just felt like it was kind of a make-it win of sorts, just for like Jerry Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Kenneth Lonergan won WGA against, so he beat Cameron Crowe. Right. So usually that spells good things. That usually lines up if your competition was ineligible or at WGA, because we have a lot of those because you need to be a member of the guild to be nominated at Writers Guild.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't have given it to him. I would have probably done You Can Count on Me.
Wow.
I'm not an Almost Famous person.
Joyce, it's so good.
No. I would have nominated, haven't mentioned this movie yet, but I would have nominated Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy for Best in Show.
So I have that written down, and I have Jessica Bettinger for Bring It On. Joyce, my wife wrote a book about Bring It On. Did you hear about this? Case Wickman.
No, I haven't. You have not mentioned this 57 times to me.
Let me mention it one more time. Case Wickman, Bring It On, the complete story of the cheerleading movie that changed like everything. No, seriously. But Jessica Bettinger, great script. I think it would have never got nominated, obviously. And like even now, I don't think it would, but it is really good script. It's super fun. It's a good script. The other people I wrote down were M. Night Shyamalan for Unbreakable and then Castaway. But I don't think either of them would have gotten in.
No, I also would not do either of them. But...
And then for adapted screenplay, Joyce, Stephen Gaghan wins for Traffic, given out by Arthur C. Clarke, I believe, Live from Space.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, and Tom Hanks had to intro that.
So he wins for Traffic. Chocolat was a nominee. Robert Nelson Jacobs. Crouching Tiger. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The Coens. Wonder Boys as well. Those are the 5 nominees. Traffic winning is great. Love it. The only other ones I wrote down were Requiem for a Dream and Virgin Suicides, both of which I think would have gotten.
I have Requiem and American Psycho.
Good adaptation too. But this is one of those years where I'm not mad at these wins, these screenplay wins. Traffic is great, should win.
Yeah, this is a great Traffic win. Yeah, and again, Traffic won directing, acting, and screenplay. And
editing.
Yeah. So Gladiator is the first Best Picture winner. Well, okay. So if you don't count the fun category of Best Story, which is not an actual award for a script, it's just the concept. The Greatest Show on Earth won that. So if you don't count that, like the last movie to win Best Picture without a writing or directing award was All the King's Men.
Wow.
So, but then the funny thing is, 2 years after this, Chicago does the same thing. It wins Best Picture without directing win or screenplay win.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I don't think I would have definitely not given Gladiator a screenplay win. Like I said, I think you could make the argument for Ridley for winning director. It is a great movie, but I understand why he didn't win. And obviously, I'm not going to take away Steven Soderbergh's Oscar. It remains really good. For score, Joyce, I wrote down this one because I was just like, really a heavy hitter list of composers here. So Tant Dunn wins for Crouching Tiger, great score. Rachel Portman for Chocolat, not my favorite Rachel Portman score, but love seeing her among the list. Hans Zimmer for Gladiator, like you mentioned, just an iconic score.
So good. And that's, constantly used in montages.
It's great.
Yeah, and trailers. Yeah.
Ennio Morricone for Milena, which I am not familiar with. And then John Williams for The Patriot, which I don't remember the music to, at least.
I do not recall that at all. I would definitely add Clint Mansell for Requiem for a Dream.
And I added Cliff Martinez for Traffic. I think those two should easily be in there,
Like,
right?
especially now, like that Requiem score used in everything.
The only thing I was wondering, Joyce, I didn't look this up, and so if you're still here, you could blast me in the comments. But I'm like, was it actually not eligible because it's not enough original material, right? Because it's with like the Kronos Quartet, and I imagine some of that stuff was like previously published.
I don't know, like what they changed that constantly, like the percentage of original music.
I wonder if it was eligible. I gotta say though, I don't think it even would have mattered because I don't think they were even considering.
No, they haven't. Like the only nomination I got was Ellen Burstyn. Like it was not anywhere close to getting in. But yeah, they changed the percentage of like they changed it again this year as well.
Yes.
So I don't know. They just do all that.
Would you give it to Tan Dun for Crouching Tiger or go with Hans Zimmer?
I'm fine with that one. Yeah, that's a great score.
It is. It's just like the Gladiator score is iconic. It's always funny to me when the iconic score does not win. Gladiator is an iconic score, but
but it's also like I don't mind when they lose to good.
That's true.
Winners,
right? That's fair. An original song, Joyce, Oscar winner Bob Dylan for "Things Have Changed," live from Australia.
Yeah, also performed
live from Australia. The other nominees were I've Seen It All, Dancer in the Dark. First time we're mentioning Bjork, Joyce. She was wearing a swan dress, heavily.
I did not hear about that. Tell me more about this swan dress. Completely missed this back then.
She dressed like a swan.
Wow.
Love Before Time from Crouching Tiger and My Funny Friend and Me from The Emperor's New Groove were the nominees, and A Fool for Love from Meet the Parents, Randy Newman, and Things Have Changed wins for Bob Dylan, Wonder Boys. Great. Good. Congratulations, Bob Dylan. This is when we were giving Oscars to every gray-haired boomer rock star. It felt like.
But not to Sting.
And not to Eddie Vedder, who I'm still waiting for.
Oscar. Or Bon Jovi.
So not everyone. Basically just Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan, I guess.
Yeah, sure, fine.
Anything else, Joyce? So that was the ceremony. I didn't really write down anything else. From the ceremony itself, like we said, they did Dino De Laurentiis wins the Thalberg Award, I believe, right?
Yes.
And who wins? And Jack Cardiff wins an honorary Oscar from Dustin Hoffman, British cinematographer. Speaking of cinematography, Joyce, so you mentioned Julia Roberts is there with Benjamin Bratt. They were dating at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She gets to present cinematography.
Yes.
And says, let me see if I wrote it down. Did I actually write it down? No. But she presents cinematography and says, oh, we really wonderful thing. We'd look like if it wasn't for cinematographers, we'd be doing radio, I think is her line, something akin to that. And cinematography win goes to Crouching Tiger, right? That's right?
Yes.
And I just found it really fun because she meets her husband, Danny Moder, on the set of The Mexican, which is shooting in 2000, comes out in 2001. So it was like,
that's how they met.
Yeah. But I mean, she it's funny to me that she gave out the Oscar for cinematography and then later met her husband, who is still they're still happily married, it seems, decades later. So that's really fun.
They just celebrated their 20th anniversary on July 4th.
Right. Because they got married on July 4th, 2002. They met in 2001. And here she's in 2001, earlier in the year, presenting cinematography. The world works in mysterious ways, Joyce. You never know.
I know. Well, you also remember the drama when they got together because he had broken up with his like longtime girlfriend at that point too. Yeah. So so like she and Benjamin Bratt were, do you remember? I remember when they broke up like 3 months later, like they broke up that summer, her and Benjamin Bratt, and then she had to promote America's Sweetheart. Right. And then she goes to her favorite late night talk show, Late Show with David Letterman, and he obviously like grills her about that. And then she said that her iconic line was that, I love Benjamin, he's just not my man anymore.
Great line.
Yeah.
I love it. This is a great time for Julia. Ascendant. Is it possible to be an ascendant moment for Julia Roberts? Is this like the peak of Julia Roberts right here?
I would say it's more of like a culmination.
That's a peak, right? That's the peak.
I mean, yes, like winning an Oscar is a peak, but it's like, it was like building up to this.
So like, yeah, like we talked about, obviously like explodes in 90, Still Magnolias in 89, Pretty Woman, then does a bunch of
she
hits.
Dominates the 90s with rom-coms.
She comes back in 97, My Best Friend's Wedding. She does Conspiracy Theory, which was the actual hit. then Stepmom, Notting Hill, Runaway Bride, Erin Brockovich in 2000, follows it up with The Mexican, American Sweethearts, and Ocean's 11 in 2001. And then takes a little bit of a beat in 2002.
Yeah, because she got married and she had kids.
Mona Lisa Smile in 2003. Closer, incredible performance, I think, in 2004 with Ocean's 12. Great performance as well, where she plays herself at some point.
Yes, she was pregnant with her twins.
Incredible. And then comes back Charlie Wilson's War. So like this is like she's on like the not the tail end, but just like not as a guarantee.
Not a tail end, but
not
she
a
was
tail end.
really like after she started a family, so she did less stuff, and then she did all different kind of stuff, like more dramatic stuff. And she's a great dramatic actress.
This is a hot take, but I actually, and I know the movie is, I think, probably not very considered, but I really like her in August Osage County. I think she's good in it.
Well, she's also a lead, who was fronted at supporting.
But I think she's really good in it. I do think she's good in it.
Yeah, she's fine. Like the movie is rough. I will never watch that again. But yeah, no, she's good in it, and you know, she's done great TV work as of late too. Homecoming,
Gaslit, and now this year back, Ascendant again, Joyce. Ticket to Paradise, which I know you and I
George Clooney
cannot wait.
Bringing back the rom-com with movie stars.
This is easily one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Directed by Al Parker, who you might know from Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Yeah. But yeah, no, she still does great work. And so to go back to the lack of surprises now at the Oscars, she was the only lock this year, right? Everyone knew she was winning Best Actress. And she got a lot of play during the ceremony because everyone was just mentioning her. I think was it Mike Myers who was presenting something, and then he was like, he just makes a joke. He's like, Julia, like he
was a jerk, Mike Myers, because he does best sound, and he's like, this is the moment we've all been waiting for.
And he's like, Julia,
it's gonna change the industry, sound. And he like kind of really denigrates the winners in a way that I was like, is he producing the 2022
and then there's like
Oscars?
A passage in Inside Oscar about like someone, I think from like the sound branch, like complained about that. But anyway, like got a lot of play that night because everyone expected her to win. She does win. If you recall, when she was nominated at the Emmys for The Normal Heart in 2014, same year that Matthew McConaughey was nominated for True Detective.
Yes.
Both of them got a lot of play that night because everyone expected them to win. So her category was first. Literally every commercial break before that, like they would tease like, and coming up next, Julia Roberts. And then like, will Julia Roberts win her first Emmy? And even she, like, because they hear it over like the thing, she was like, what? Like, why do you keep talking about me? She loses to Kathy Bates, who also beat her for the Oscar, Misery, over Pretty Woman. And so that was a surprise. Emmys can still surprise you. Oscars never surprise you anymore.
Not anymore. But maybe, Joyce, hope springs eternal that this year they will. We already had one surprise. We're recording this moments after, not moments, but not to date it, but Killers of the Flower Moon not here anymore for the Oscars. So you never know what's going to happen.
Not here allegedly.
Not here allegedly.
But also, it has like nothing's won anything yet. So I don't know why you even say that. But anyway, go back to this. Again, Matthew McConaughey, everyone expecting him to win, drama actor at the Emmys, loses to Bryan Cranston.
Right.
So Emmys can still surprise you, which is why I still don't understand when people want the Emmys to move their calendar to be in the winter, like with the Globes and the Oscars and everything. Like that is terrible. Like it's great that it's far apart from these other award shows. It's a different calendar, so we have different winners, and they're still capable of doing their own things. Partially now it's because of the limited ballot, so they only watch like 3 shows, but they're still capable of surprises, even when we have had 7 sweeps the past 2 years of the main ceremony. You know, they're in other categories, they're still capable of giving us surprises. The Oscars don't do that anymore.
This is a great one, Joyce. So this is a bonus one. We're doing, I think, one more, and I believe it's the 2007 Oscars. So you and I can talk all about what has to be one of our favorite. I think we definitely think it's one of my favorite movies. And when I think you probably agree is
The Departed is a movie that I had to beg my friends to go see with me in the theater. I
have so many great stories about it. So we'll talk about that one next. That'll be the last of these bonus episodes, and then we'll put Oscars Playback to bed for the year. But this is fun, Joyce. We went very long, as long as Belfast, I'm sure. This is
probably longer.
Maybe longer. All right. Goodbye.